Hey everybody, Nate Carter here with today's Cornerstone Connection Daily Devotional. As a pastor here at Cornerstone, I have the opportunity to officiate weddings from time to time. And one of the pieces of advice that I always try to convey to the couple during our premarital counseling is this: don't settle for cheap love. Don't settle for the cheap cultural idea of love that we see in movies and that we hear about in love songs and that we dream about. My kids are in the fairy tale stage right now, and so we're watching Disney movies all the time, and that's the kind of cheap love that we're talking about. It's when this beautiful princess falls in love with this handsome prince, and at the end of the day, they live happily ever after because they've just fallen in love with each other. And the truth is, probably most of us that are married, that's how the story began. We just fell head over heels in love with someone. And it was a very romantic thing, and probably you had a very romantic proposal and a romantic wedding. And at some point, though, the romance has to convert to something else. At least in my experience, the long-term love that sustains a marriage, it can't be that romantic head over heels experience that you had when you first met and when you first fell in love. It has to convert into something that's lasting and something that's built on a stronger foundation than just an emotional feeling about the other person. And I'm convinced that part of the reason that we have so many divorces now is that people expect that romantic head over heels experience is going to continue for years and years and years. But the truth is that it doesn't, and wasn't expected to. God didn't design it to be that way. Today I was reading in Ephesians 5, and I want you to hear this. Ephesians 5, beginning right at the beginning of the chapter, verse 1. Paul says, "Imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are his dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us." Now, if you stop right there, you kind of think you know what you're talking about, and it feels really good, right? Just love one another, and we've got this construct of what love means. But listen to how that sentence is completed. He loved us and offered himself as a sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. Now, when you take that love that Paul's talking about and describe it, he's describing a kind of sacrificial love of serving the other person. Christ demonstrated that by laying down his life for us, by going to the cross, by being killed for us. And that's the example of love. It's an example of serving one another. When we fail to get to that point of serving one another and instead just expect our emotions to carry us, we're going to be disappointed every time. But here's the thing that I want you to hear. When you approach this kind of a love, this kind of sacrificial serving love, you're not settling for a second-rate love. What you're doing is you're accepting the kind of love that Christ had for us, and it is a much better love. It's the kind of love that satisfies and that sustains for years and years on end, but it costs more. It's not cheap. And that's why I like to say to couples, don't settle for a cheap love. Invest in a love that is going to last for years and decades to come. I have the great opportunity in a couple of weeks to officiate a renewal of vows ceremony with a beautiful couple that is exhibiting this so well. And this couple has really had to live out the in sickness and in health part of a traditional wedding vow because sickness has entered their marriage. And I'm watching one spouse serve the other so beautifully, and the other spouse respond so beautifully. And it's a love that's built not on cheap American cultural romanticism, but rather on serving and patience and caring for one another. And it's so much more beautiful than watching two people just follow their emotions. I'll leave you with this final thought. This is not just about a husband and a wife, about two people falling in love, about marriage. This is how we love one another, regardless of whether they're our spouses or not. I think it plays out most effectively and intensely in the marriage relationship. But for those of you that are single, this is also a way that we can sacrificially serve and love one another in the way that Jesus called us to do and in the way he exemplified for us. So today, look for opportunities to serve one another. If you're married, look for an opportunity to serve your spouse. If you're single, look for an opportunity to serve someone else in your life and to show the love of Christ as you do so. We'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.